Am I the a-hole because I didn't make sure my son has an inheritance? I, 55 male, have 1 biological child, 29 male, and 2 stepchildren, 16 male and 12 female. My wife's first husband was killed in an accident while on his way to work offshore. Her husband had a very large life insurance policy, of which she was the sole beneficiary. He traveled overseas at times, and one of the oil companies he sometimes worked for required it, so his employer paid for it. It was for £1 million with triple indemnity. She ended up with slightly over $5 million from that policy alone. They also had a smaller policy, which they paid for, worth nearly $1 million, of which she was also the sole beneficiary. She and her children received settlements from his company, and she also gets monthly Social Security survivor benefits for her children. She has all of this money invested and receives periodic payments from it. All of that is her separate property. My wife bought and maintains the house we live in with her separate money, so it is hers alone. We spend our salaries on our cars, living expenses, vacations, and things like that. About a month ago, my son mentioned that he was expecting that he'd get half of our house and her kids would each get 25% when we died. He also thought that I, and therefore he, was entitled to part of her separate property. I explained to him that the house is hers, paid for by income from her separate property, and that her children would inherit the house. I also explained that all of her investments are separate property and that I have no claim to them. He initially expressed concern for me in the event that I outlived her. She has granted me the right to use the house, and I would receive a monthly income from her investments, but her children would inherit the house and money after we both died. I explained that we keep our salaries separate. She pays 100% of the house and upkeep. Anything that benefits us and the kids is split, with her paying 3/4 and me paying 1/4. If it benefits only her and me, we split it 50-50. Sometimes she pays everything if it's something that is mostly for the kids' benefit. For example, if we go on a vacation, she'll pay for the accommodations and activities, and we'll just split the food. If you count all her income, salary, separate property, and Social Security, my salary is only about 20% of our combined income. He blew up and said that I should have insisted that we use our salaries to pay for the house, put it in both of our names, and made her spend her money on other expenses. He's very angry that I'm pissing all my money away on my stepchildren, and he currently isn't speaking to me and is refusing to come over at all during the holidays. Am I the a-hole for not negotiating with my wife to make sure he had a bigger inheritance? He will get something. He'll definitely get a whole life insurance policy, $25,000, and whatever cash I have in my checking account, usually a few $1,000s. Edited to add, my annual salary is about $60,000. Before I married my wife, I lived in an apartment and drove a 12-year-old car. My life is drastically different since I married her, but I like to pay my own way as much as I can. Now for the top comments. Your son sounds like an entitled little turd. Maybe suggest he makes his own way in the world and stop planning to use an inheritance he isn't getting. Absolutely. Even though OP didn't give a timeline, just going by the kids' ages, OP's wife and stepchildren weren't even in OP's life before his biological son was an adult. How could the son ever have come up with the delusion that his father could afford that house and that he'd inherit half of it, plus part of her other assets? We've been married for 5 years. I live in the UK, and in Scotland it's almost impossible to cut your kids out entirely, but in England, you can cut them out very easily. He is behaving like an entitled douche, and I'd be inclined, if you can, to introduce him to no inheritance at all. There is an a-hole in this scenario, OP. It just isn't you. We are in the US. Essentially, my wife owns the house we live in and pays all the upkeep with income from investments that are her separate property. I don't own any part of it and am not entitled to any part of it. She is leaving her property to her children. I am leaving my son nearly my entire estate. I just don't have much compared to my wife. I have a whole life insurance policy, my car, my checking account, and my personal belongings. I do specify that all household furnishings are left solely to my wife, except for a cedar chest that belonged to my grandmother. My wife paid for pretty much everything in the house anyway. I just didn't want there to be any question about whether the sofa was hers alone or ours. OP, do you not have any retirement savings? It doesn't change the not the a-hole judgment, but I'm a bit curious. It sounds a little like your wife could change her will or divorce you, and you'd be left in the cold with more or less nothing. Not saying she would, but it's a vulnerability that might be part of your son's legitimate concern, which vanished behind his entitlement once he heard you had assurances in your wife's will. I have a 401k. My son is the beneficiary of that too. I just don't really think of that as part of his future inheritance because I plan to use it when I retire. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share inheritance with sisters because they told me that it is a son's duty to take care of parents? I am a 30-year-old male with two elder sisters, aged 33 and 36. Both are married and have children. They are doing well in life. One runs a successful business, and the other is a banker. I left my MBA when my mom had a stroke and my dad became sick. My sisters barely took care of them, as in our culture, sons are expected to take care of parents. However, our parents invested equally in our education and marriage funds. They gave us equal opportunities, and my sisters' marriages were fully paid for by them. I had to leave my MBA and take a job nearby so I could take care of my parents. My parents once shared their will, stating that everything would be divided equally among the children. But disappointed by my sisters, they changed it. First, my mom passed away, and later my dad, within a span of 2 months. My parents were government officers, had great pensions, and saved well. When the lawyers finally revealed the will, they left me the house, which is very valuable as it is in the center of our city. They also left me their savings, which could cover my MBA again. However, I plan to attend a 3-year law school, which is very expensive, or study in Ireland for 2 years, as that degree is highly valued here. They did leave some money for my 3 nephews and nieces. They left some money, along with a small amount in American dollars, for my sisters so they couldn't challenge the will, less than $100 each. My sisters asked me to share the house sale proceeds and the money, which I refused. They involved extended family, and I simply asked where they were when I was taking care of our parents, ending my social life. My girlfriend left me, and I sacrificed my education. Now I am being painted as the bad guy within our close circle, while they were traveling overseas. I am refusing to change my stance, but some of my female friends said I should share with my sisters, and that it's misogyny on my part. My sisters told me they will cut me off. I love my nephews and nieces, and it saddens me to think of losing them, but they cannot blackmail me using them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It was your parents' money to do with what they wanted. They wrote their own will and deliberately chose to leave your sisters out of it. Not uncommon when the kids don't step up when the parents are elderly and ill. Your parents did not want them to inherit. They did it to punish your sisters, and they left it to you as a reward for being there for them. So let the will stand and keep the money. You do not owe your sisters a share. I guess it wasn't the culture that said boys take care of parents. Parents repaid the gift the son provided. Not the a-hole. I agree. Keep the house and raise your family in it. Take a few years before getting married, because I doubt you are familiar with how dating is different now. Don't let anyone pressure you into marriage or a family. You lost your youth, and you need to take some time to have fun again. Go to the cheapest college you can with a good reputation. Don't blow all that money on something with little ROI. What you did for your parents was incredibly kind. It's time to live your life for you and not others, though. If people are okay cutting you out of their lives, you aren't that important to them in the first place. Not the a-hole. The sibling that is willing to take care of the parents should always get the bigger share. You sacrificed and you should be set right. It's only fair. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my in-laws that I don't care about the resale value of my house? I, 36 male, have a fully paid off house that I inherited 5 years ago from my uncle. He was actually my father's friend, but I always called him my uncle. I had known him since I was born, and he was one of the people I admired most in the world. He worked a hard job and lived life on his own terms. I once asked him when I was little why he wasn't married to a nice lady. He looked at my dad and said that he liked men, not ladies. My dad didn't say anything, so I asked why he didn't marry my dad since they liked each other. I still remember my dad laughing while beer poured out of his nose. My mom found the story hilarious when my dad told her. My uncle passed away in an industrial accident and left everything to me. I'm set up for life. I can't afford not to work. He wasn't rich, but I have no debts while working a job I love and find fulfilling. The house is a bungalow in an older neighborhood. My uncle kept it in fantastic shape, but it's a bungalow built in 1953, so it's dated. I don't care. It's free and clear, and my yard is massive. I have a garden that takes up the back corner and is bigger than most of my friends' entire backyards. I also have a heated double-detached garage with a workshop and all the tools I will ever need. In short, I'm covered for my housing needs, and I'm happy. The poop in the punch bowl is my in-laws. Every time they come over, they complain about my house like I'm on a TV show about fixer-uppers. They judge everything. The color of the tub, avocado green. The floors, original narrow hardwood slats. Basically every single thing you see people on renovation shows change, cover, or rip out. By contrast, my wife and I are happy. We can afford to take vacations without going into debt. We don't have a mortgage, so we can afford to replace our cars when the time comes. We are funding our retirement accounts at a decent rate. I'm not trying to humble brag, I am bragging. I miss my uncle very much, but I'm in a great position in life because of him. Another issue is that due to the housing crisis, my city has rezoned all the older neighborhoods for high-density infill. Every single house that sells here is torn down, and they put up duplexes, fourplexes, eightplexes, skinny houses, or gaudy McMansions. I know that if I ever sell, it isn't going to be a starter house for some young family. They won't be able to afford it. I've explained this to my in-laws constantly. They just don't get it. Her brother does real estate and keeps going on about all the upgrades we should do, like how putting in a new kitchen will keep developers from tearing my home down. Her parents take it as a personal failing that we aren't in debt paying for renovations and additions. They all live in a big house with a mortgage that all three of them pay because they needed a big new house. It's beautiful, but their utilities are like $1,600 a month. That's insane. They were over yesterday and got on us again. I told them that their opinions on our living situation didn't matter to me. My wife joined in on my side and told them to drop it because this is our home where we will raise our kids. She is ride or die. They all got huffy and said they just want the best for us. I responded that I would be willing to do whatever renovations they saw fit if they paid for them. No strings attached. Then they backpedaled and said we needed to pay for the things they want in our house. I just laughed and said no. They are upset that we aren't taking their wishes for us into consideration. Am I the a-hole for telling them I don't care about their opinions on our house? Not the a-hole. It sounds as if they should have been shut down long ago. Why are they still being invited over when they can't keep their opinions to themselves? Clearly, they'd be happier only seeing you at their home, where they can brag about how they can't afford to do anything except pay off their debts. Tell them they can come over when they can respect your choices. Otherwise, the door is too old to be opened for them. Putting in a new kitchen will keep developers from tearing my home down. What? No one is going to come tear your house down around you because you have an old kitchen. And if you ever sold it, it's out of your hands anyway. So what the what? Not the a-hole. That was just one example. Like he thinks anyone that can afford a house these days wants a 72-year-old fixer-upper. I know when I sell, this house will be torn down. He's an idiot. Not the a-hole. You are in the right and you know it. My neighborhood is the same way. Good for you and your wife for not going into debt over trivial stuff. I will say, though, to make sure your fuse box is rated for your draw. A lot of older houses aren't ready for all the electrical stuff we use these days. I had a new fuse box put in when I put on my solar. But yeah, that's a good call. Last story. Would I be the a-hole if I faked being sick to skip Christmas Day with most of my family because I didn't ask my stepmom to adopt me after my stepsister asked my dad to adopt her? Yesterday, my stepsister, 9 female, asked my dad to adopt her while everyone was gathered for Christmas Eve. By everyone, I mean me, my dad, my stepsister, my stepmom's family, and my dad's family. My dad was so happy, and my stepsister was ecstatic when my dad said yes. Once that all calmed down, almost everyone was looking at me, 16 female. My stepmom couldn't stop looking at me. It was awkward AF. I had zero plans to ask her to adopt me, and I was freaking out that she might ask to adopt me. It didn't happen, but there were questions being asked, and I was basically encouraged to ask her by my grandparents, some of my aunts, and some of my stepmom's family. By the end of the day, I was so ready for it all to be over. When I wasn't in the room, I could hear people talking about me and telling my stepmom that I'd come around eventually and that I was such a bratty teenager for not realizing what I have in her. It made me want to cause a scene, but I didn't want to make the bratty teenager comment valid. But I was never going to ask my stepmom to adopt me. It would never be something I want. I don't see her as my new second or extra mom, or my mom at all. I don't love her. I'm not that close to her. She never became my parent in my heart or my head. The only reason I call her my stepmom is out of respect, and because I love my dad and he loves her, and he wants us to be a family. My dad and stepmom know how I feel. It was talked about one-on-one and in therapy. My stepsister is different because she was so young and doesn't remember her biological dad. But I knew my mom, had a relationship with her, and had her in my life until I was 9. And I've said it before, nobody new will come in and take on the motherly role in my life. I just know the adoption stuff isn't over though. I know it'll be talked about again today, and I know everyone is going to be watching me and willing me to ask her. I want no part of that, so I'm considering faking sick so I can stay home. My dad will be upset because I figure he might see through me, but I don't think anyone else will. Would I be the a-hole if I do that? Take a mental health day. Tell them you are not feeling good. This is how I survived my childhood. I am still known as the kid that was sick every holiday. No people, I'm just avoiding all the drama. I think your stepsister was put up to asking your dad about adoption by your stepmom. I can't imagine a 9-year-old coming up with that concept on her own and expecting as a result that you would ask for the same. Not the a-hole. Have a talk with your dad this morning. Tell him how you feel. And don't lie or fake sickness. He should be willing and able to shut down any pressure thrown your way by your relatives. She wasn't put up to it. She's talked about wanting to be adopted for a while because one of her friends was, and she hates that my dad isn't her real dad. She calls him dad and always told people he was her dad. But in school, some kids told her he couldn't be her real dad unless he adopted her. Okay, that doesn't change your feelings though. Have that talk with your dad and proceed from there. Explain the reasons about not wanting an adoption. I'll bet he understands. He already knows my reasons. It hasn't really changed anything. Him and my stepmom have known for years, but I know he won't shut it down or help me. He doesn't push me, but he doesn't help either.